I think it's time that we realize that Washington is corrupt. Now, I'm not telling you something you don't already know. But let's talk about the bill, the CR bill, just for a second. It passed. The people that did not vote for it were all on the very staunch Republican side. Everybody that voted for it was all the Democrats and Republicans. I would say establishment and people in the middle. Now, here's my question. No matter who backs it, no matter if Trump and Biden both selected and thought it was a great bill, blah, 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 why would a Speaker of the House that is Republican not do more to make his own party at least vote for it altogether? That's one thing the Democrats do better, is they coalesce and they stick together. Republicans don't. And it's amazing that we had opportunity to do something amazing. And yes, it got better, but it's still not the best bill. But it really was because Speaker Johnson didn't work with his own people in his own party and instead went to Hakeem Jeffries. We'll talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about the state of emergency that California just implemented. I mean, you think it's not going to happen, you think it's over, and all of a sudden, bam, it hits you again. Well, what does it mean when they say we're going to have a bird flu state of emergency? We're going to go over that and then talk about craziness. We're going to jump into a fact that a drone just struck a building, flying around and then struck a building. What's the difference in that drone and the drones flying here? Why is that a threat and these are not? Well, because, like we said, there could be a lot more to the story. Now let's jump into these stories and a few more. We're going to dive into a lot today and try to get it all in just a few moments because, to be honest with you, I'm freezing to death. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to our channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. Also remember, today we will have, actually by now, it should be uploaded, third vlog of Life at Colby. Today we're just kind of walking around the farm, doing some chores, but also talking about why we raise the animals we do and sustainability and how we actually get that and how it stages, how it's a circle and how it's a process. Don't miss that video, a great video on the other channel. Now let's dive into this channel and talk about some of the news that we need to discuss. First, let's jump into Mike Johnson. What we've seen is this is a weak man. And what we've also seen is he needs to be changed out. Now again, I want to start this by saying this. I love the fact that he seems like he has a Christian moral belief. My problem with Mike Johnson is I believe he's a nice guy, but I believe he's not tough enough to handle this job. I think it's a little too much of a hard, very staunch, arrogant position of a job, meaning you almost got to make people not like you. And I think he wants to be liked. I do. I think Mike Johnson wants to be liked. And I think he's a great guy, probably just on the street and will do anything for you. But when it comes to politics, it's dirty. And I just don't believe this is for him. I think we need to see a new leader. Now, Thomas Massie has already come out and said that he is not going to vote for Johnson. And he said there will be a lot of people that say they won't, but they'll end up doing it, just like they did on this bill. The thing that we need to talk about is this, though. Why is that a big deal? Why do we want this guy to not be Speaker anymore? Well, he is the Republican Speaker of the House, which means we just won overwhelmingly in the Senate, the House, and the presidency for 2025. We're still in 2024, so you have a chance to play hardball. You have a chance to shut down the government. Actually, Newt Gingrich came out and said, don't be afraid to shut down the government. I mean, don't be afraid of it. Things could come out of that and you could have better negotiations, kind of like the tariff talks, like we always talk about with Trump. But instead, he goes not to the 38 people that were against this bill that wants to cut funding and it wants to clean it up even more than what it was, to be very lean. No, he goes to Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrats, and gets the Democrats to vote for this. Now, what actually just took place is this. You just said, I don't care about the conservative or the what we would consider the old Tea Party or the Freedom Caucus wing of the party. We just want to make sure it doesn't get shut down. Well, if we keep doing that, all we're going to do is just keep adding to our deficit. Thomas Massie came out and said that Mike Johnson actually agreed to doing a clean bill to where they were kind of not all in one bills, making it where we're going to start splitting it out, single origin bills, meaning we're going to vote for disaster relief for Helene and Milton. Yes, we're going to vote for blank, we're going to vote for blank, and then that way you have the ayes and nays to represent that. Well, instead of doing that, instead of sticking to those terms, he decided to go to Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats. And so now it almost comes across as a Democratic win, not a Republican win. So this is what happens with the Republicans. They all are spineless, and they all end up taking a loss. You know, you hear all these Republicans come out right now, and I can just, I mean, I'm telling you, mimic. You could just, they're going to say exactly what I'm saying right now. Well, you know, it's not the best, but it is better than what it was. And it got narrowed down, and we're not spending nearly as much. But now the real challenge starts. We have to cut the budget. We have to cut spending. You're going to hear that from just about 50 to 60 Republicans that are in the middle that wants to be staunch on conservatism, but don't want to get a shutdown and actually be like ostracized. Like Thomas Massie, he doesn't mind being ostracized. Rand Paul, he doesn't mind being ostracized because he stands on moral principle. Now, are they perfect? No. But they're standing on the ground of trying to be better for our nation. Johnson is weak. He seems like a likable guy. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but he needs to be out. This actually comes across, and you know, Trump and Elon and now Biden and Hakeem, everybody's saying they got the win. Everybody's saying they got the win. What you should have done is, like I said yesterday, you step back, you shut the government down, and you take the win because you manipulate the situation that we're in with the government shutdown. Simple as that. That might sound harsh, but to be honest with you, we've got to quit doing what we're doing. I want to look at these two. I want to give you these two statistics. This says unsustainable. Rabbit Hole shared this. It says it took 200 years for the U.S. debt to reach 12 trillion, and it took 200 years to do that. Now listen to this. 12 trillion is how much we added just in the last 4 years under this presidency. Now, you could say, oh, it's all Biden, it's all Biden. I do believe that it's a lot of Biden, no doubt. But I blame the Republican Congress too, because remember, they could have stood against this. Just right now, they could have said, we're going to shut it down until we get a better situation where we're not going to be in a deficit and quit spending money. We're not going to fund a government that can't fund itself. That's kind of like me going to the bank and saying, look, I don't have your money for the monthly note this month, but I'm buying a car for $50,000 and you've got to give me the money. I can't pay this bill, but you've got to give me the money. And oh, by the way, I don't really have any collateral put against it. Please give me the money. And then me going, and then they decline it, and then me going next door to the other loan officer and saying, okay, I'm going to blackmail you, so you better make sure I get my loan. And all of a sudden they pass the loan through. That wouldn't happen in normal life, would it? You couldn't get more money when you're in debt up to your eyeballs and you're not paying your other loans, correct? There's no reason for it. Give me one reason why we keep spending. Now, you know, I share my clips on TikTok and their shorts, and you'd be surprised how many people think that it's okay for the government to take more of our tax dollars because we need it. They don't need our money. They need to stick to a budget. The problem is not that they don't have enough money. The problem is they don't know how to contain and budget the money they have. But no, you'll hear people saying they need to pay their fair share. More billionaires need to pay more. We need more money coming in for tax dollars. We need to charge more tax. What? No, we don't. We need to get a rein on Washington and quit letting them frivolously spend our money. The Department of Education, United States Postal Service, Department of Defense, again, as a conservative, I'm telling you this, Department of Defense, several more of these big agencies can't even balance a budget, and they've lost hundreds of billions of dollars. Is that just normal? What if all of a sudden I told my wife, well, honey, we had $10,000 extra dollars in the safe, but I don't know where I put it. But I got this new mower out here. I'm just letting you know I bought a new mower, but I don't know where that $10,000 went. She's going to assume, well, if we're missing $10,000 and you have a brand new mower, you're probably not missing it. You probably took it and spent it. Same thing, huh? Think about that for a second. We're giving more money to someone to either take from us, use frivolously, or waste. I mean, there's no other option to it. And Mike Johnson is a part of that. We can't keep doing that, guys. We can't. 200 years, 12 trillion. 4 years, the last 4 years, we hit the same 12 trillion. It's mind-blowing to me. Here's another one that someone shared on Twitter. It says Americans earning under $50,000 are skipping meals, selling belongings, and delaying medical care because they cannot afford to live. 24% of Americans earning $50,000 or less a year have skipped meals because they cannot afford it, and 23 have had to sell most of their stuff. Is that what we want for Americans to live? But no, we can give a free visa and free health care and free food to all these people who are coming here illegally. But we can't even allow people to live because of the way we're spending money. The Fed cut the rate, which means inflation will go back up. So therefore, your costs will go back up. And that leads me right to this next story. Guess what? State of emergency issued for California for the bird flu. It is now hitting to humans. Now remember, it took a lot of time to get to humans, a lot of function to get to humans. It doesn't just magically happen. So tell me how all of a sudden it spread to humans. One case in Louisiana on someone who was not in the best health. Another case in Canada. So now California, being that they're like, I guess next door to Canada and Louisiana, which they're not, but they declare a state of emergency for it. So they can open up more channels and more funds to battle this very dangerous situation. Throwing noodles on the wall, guys. Drones are throwing noodles on the wall. State of emergency is throwing noodles on the wall. Is there a risk? Maybe. But it took a long time to get there. But you know what it did? Already, here's the next story. After that state of emergency and after the declaration that someone in Louisiana and someone in Canada developed this flu epidemic, this H5N1 avian flu, it went to people. Listen to this, eggflation. Dozens of supermarkets hit with record high of eggs as bird flu ravishes farms. Did you hear that? This came out literally the same day that state of emergency came out. So it does not matter if you believe it. That's what I told you before. It's already affecting because of the speculation of our market. So now they're shutting down operations for eggs. And so eggs have already went up around 20% on top of what they already went up the last few years. They're saying that they're going to be in short supply in the supermarket. Well, remember, eggs are in a lot of things, especially if you're buying processed and prepackaged food. So how's this going to affect your grocery budget? Isn't it amazing how they cut the rate, which is going to make for a heavier problem in 2025. Now you see this starting off with the state of emergency, which is making your eggs and your chicken go up for 2025. Beef, guess what? Denmark just came out with a burp tax for farmers to pay, which is going to cost more money to raise a steer to send to market because of climate. So 2025, they said the beef market in America can be affected because we're in a global market when it comes to beef too. Isn't it amazing how it seems all these things are happening to make 2025 a crappy year? They do not want a successful America because Trump is leading it. They do not want a successful America because there was conservatives and populists and libertarians stood up to want something different than this establishment. I mean, they declare a state of emergency and all of a sudden eggs go up. I mean, come on. There's 2 cases right now in our Western Hemisphere that has been a human case, Canada and Louisiana. And now we're going to literally slaughter several chicken houses. And then also cattle is going to have some milk issues, they already said, in California because of what they found out in the milk. And so now we have your milk and eggs will cost more. Isn't it amazing when milk and eggs cost more? Everything costs more because milk and eggs go in everything. State of emergency in California. It doesn't matter if you believe it. It's going to affect your prices at the store because you're having to buy the things at the store. Now remember, inflation going up because the Fed cut the rate when no one said that Powell should cut the rate. He cut the rate. And like Zero Hedge said, that would actually bring in a true recession for 2025 under Trump, and Trump will be blamed for it. So now you have inflation and more consumer pricing going up because of that, and now you hear the state of emergency is going to make the fact of eggs and milk go up, and chicken, of course. Beef, because of Eastern European countries and Western European countries telling you that they need to charge more for a burp tax for the cows because they're dangerous for the earth. Now remember, this red meat has been roaming the earth for a lot more years than the manufactured beef that's grown in petri dishes that they want you to eat. But no, we got to charge more tax to the farmer. More tax to the farmer means more tax for your food. More tax for your food means less money you have. Remember the report? People who are making under $50,000 are having to cut their lifestyle because they cannot afford to live in this economy. And you can't blame all that on Trump. You've been under Democratic leadership. Now, what you could do, though, is say, I can blame some of Republican Congress because they've done nothing but now give themselves more money to give these backroom deals, to give all our money to Ukraine, give all our money all across. I mean, we just did what was it, $1 billion to the Ecuadorian rainforest fund or something? And we have people that are living in tents in damage of North Carolina, Helene, that was getting held up because of a government shutdown bill that they wanted to put it with. And I've heard 2 Republicans already, well, we're glad that we got that disaster relief passed. That's all that mattered. That's why I voted for it. Instead of saying standalone bill, bring it out. Because they knew there was kickbacks in the other part of it. It's all a game. Now let's talk about what Trump just did. I thought this was a good thing. And again, this is where I think that if we could not deal with Congress and have to deal with their stupidness, we would actually get somewhere. Trump warns the EU. He says, buy American oil and gas or face tariff wars. Now you remember, the EU hates Russia, but they're still buying gas through them or subsidiaries. So they're still buying Russian gas and Russian oil, all the while they're in war against them. What Trump is saying, look, let's just have common sense here. You buy our fuel, you buy our oil and gas, or I'm going to charge you more. What he's saying is you NATO countries want our money. I mean, that's exactly what he says. You NATO countries want our money to fund your wars, to fund your safety, but you won't even buy our goods. You're not buying Chevrolets, Fords, and Cadillacs and all that over there. You're not buying Chryslers and Dodges. You're not buying our fuel. So you want us to give our money to you, to keep you safe, to watch over you, and you not get any of our stuff. Well, therefore, you're going to get tariffs on you. Now, again, this is negotiating. Do I believe they deserve tariffs? I actually do, personally. But anyways, I digress. Look at what the tariff conversation did with Mexico and Canada. It brought them to the table, and bam, we've got coverage and safety that's going to happen on our borders. And billions of dollars of their money going to help us because they realize they couldn't do it without America. Same way with the EU. If Trump plays hardball with these allies, unlike Mr. Johnson that's in the speakership, if Trump plays hardball and actually says, if you don't buy our goods, we're going to put tariffs on you, that's going to make some Fords, Chevrolets, and Dodges probably end up in Europe. That's also going to make our oil and gas production go up. Now, instead of doing a burp tax, we're producing manufacturing jobs with oil and gas. What looks better? What's better for you as a people? Burp tax in Denmark or oil and gas manufacturing, which makes for your petroleum goods to go down here and more money coming over from overseas? It's just a no-brainer. So Trump sends that warning out and he says, you know what, if you don't play ball with us, we're just going to charge you more. I think that's a great tactic because what it is negotiating a situation that's going to make it better for America. Why do we want to be in a trade deficit when we're the biggest player in the world? Why do we want to do that? There's nothing wrong with having humility and being humble, no doubt. But there's no reason in us just taking a loss after loss after loss each and every time when it comes to our trade partners. So Trump brings that out and says, we're not doing it anymore. Now let's talk about this drone situation. I'm done talking about the one here in America for right now. But here we are. There's a video of a drone. They say it's a Ukrainian drone, flew into a place in Russia and may cause a major fire, hit a building and all this. So I go back and say this again. If drone warfare is becoming a big deal in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and it is. If you've heard anything about it, go read about it. Drone warfare has become a big deal. We still have drones flying. Do I believe they're, China or Iran? I don't. I believe they're American drones. Here's the thing, though. It's time to quit treating us like children. The government needs to learn to tell us as adults, and no matter if it causes problems or what, we got to grow a spine and put our big boy pants on and realize that we can take bad news when it comes. I think the government needs to come out and say, this is what we're doing with the drones. This is the problem. This is what we're doing. Hopefully it'll be a solution. I think that would help versus just saying, well, we're going to allow something to happen and never tell you about it. It's kind of like this. There's things that I tell my children, that my wife and I tell my children. But then there's some things I don't tell them because they're kids. They can't understand, they can't comprehend budget. They can't comprehend what we're spending. They can't comprehend my salary. They can't comprehend what we're paying in insurance and house bills. Now, they can comprehend some stuff. And so my 16-year-old and my 13-year-old, I've taught a lot more about than what I have some of the other ones. But they're getting older. But I don't tell them everything about our lives because they're just too young. They don't understand. Okay, now, I feel like that's what the government's doing with us as people. They're treating us like children. Well, they can't handle this. It's just too much. It'll cause panic, hysteria. Well, when we bend our knee and when we live off the government, then it probably will cause hysteria. But if we would learn to take care of ourselves and learn to stick to budgets and learn to be adults, I think America, the leadership needs to tell us what's going on in the situations like the drones, or going on with the situations of conflict or threats. When they tell us, it will cause us to either be more prepared or grow up a little bit and start getting prepared, instead of just being hit with a mass casualty situation, or being hit with a mass blackout, or being hit with a threat that we're not ready for. Wouldn't you think it'd be wise for them to talk to us like we're adults and not children? It's kind of like the milk situation and egg situation and food situation. Why do we need regulations to tell us we can't buy from a farm? Do they not trust us enough to buy our own food and trust that we're grown up enough to do that? But we allow our children at 13 years old to go get an operation to change their whole assignment. But no, adults are not adult enough to hear the truth. They're not adult enough to pick out their own food without some kind of major regulation to tell you how harmful it is to you, like raw milk or something. There's a time for change, and it's now. We're adults. We need to hear what's going on with the drone situation. It's common sense. Tell us what's going on. Tell us why you're doing this. And then that way, I think Americans can go through their hysteria and figure out panic, but also can start preparing. And for the ones that are all prepared, they say, I told you so. We should have already been preparing from a long time ago. So drones are being used in warfare in Russia and Ukraine. I don't think that's the case here. I think drones are being used for something else. And I think that's where Americans should know the truth. And I believe the Biden administration should come out and say, this is why we're doing this, because of this. And I think that will help Americans feel like they're growing up a little bit. And that would help them start preparing for whatever this may be. It may never happen, but I think it'd be wise. If there's a nuclear threat or a warhead or something missing over here, why don't we tell the people so then that way they could be prepared for it? And in the areas. It's not about causing hysteria or panic. It's about being prepared. Instead of treating us like we're 5 years old and we're just not grown up enough to hear it. Have you thought like that? I mean, that's my thought pattern. And last, we are coming up on the first of the year. Christmas is upon us. We want you to enjoy your time with your family. But make plans this year to do something more, to not rely on the government. If you're relying on the government, or you're relying on the supermarket to always provide your food, or the pharmacist to always provide your medicine, why don't you learn some things in the coming year? You know, everybody wants to join a gym and start eating right, and that's all great. No, I'm not against that. But instead of making some kind of crazy resolution, why don't we just say, I'm going to change? I'm going to listen to what actually is happening in the world so I can make a very wise choice of who I'm going to elect in these coming, Congress terms. I'm not going to just listen to their hype. I'm going to see how they walked. Also, I'm going to do better. I'm going to start raising a garden. I'm going to start raising some herbs for some herbal teas and some medicinal teas, some tinctures. I'm going to start thinking about raising rabbits and chickens, to start taking part of that to where at least I can have some kind of meat source and food source on the farm. I mean, eggs are going up there. I mean, geez, people are panicking. I might need to get some chickens. I may want to try to milk a cow. That might be, I have this land. Why don't we try to raise some beef? I have this half acre. Why don't I just try to grow a garden? I have this 1/8 acre. Why don't I build some raised beds and just grow a little food for spring? I mean, if it's just a salad, then that gives me one less meal I have to buy. I want you to do better. The reason we bring these stories up is not to make you panic. It's to make you think, to say, you know what, I could do better. I don't want the government helping me. I don't want them paying my bills. I don't want them giving me handouts, because if I get used to that, then I am a child and I am a kid and I am needing them. If I have to rely on what Walmart has each and every week instead of what I can grow, then I am a child. I am needing someone. I'm dependent. I'm like a dependent on my tax return. I'm not independent of that. we need to understand that it's time to get a little bit better and be a little bit more sustainable. One thing that we should learn from the olden days is they learned how to raise their food, learn how to be a little bit more tough, and learn how to go out and do something. And I think if we could get some information, if we can get some knowledge of that and wisdom and a common sense approach to that, I think we could do better. Guys, let me know your thoughts. That's just me for the day. I think that we can learn from these stories. The Trump warning, the fact of the drones, even down to the Congress. If we would learn to have more wisdom and look at this in a better set of eyes, a more prepared set of eyes, a more independent set of eyes, then we'll make the right decisions and not just keep listening to the fluff. Guys, thank you for watching. May God bless you this week and have a wonderful time as you start having time with your family through this weekend and as it goes into the Christmas season. Thank you guys for watching. God bless.